Happy Mother's Day. This morning I'm talking about what happens before every new era. I'm going to be talking or sharing words spoken and written by Nicholas Rourke quite a bit this morning. Nicholas Rourke was one of the founders of the Agni Yoga Society. The other founder was his wife, Helena Rourke. He really was a remarkable man. They were a remarkable couple. I was thinking how in today's society, it's more difficult to be recognized as a remarkable human being. You know, just think about it. It's like trying to think of a really great word it's like the walls of, that might be the right word, the walls of vanity and ego have become so huge in our consciousness, in the consciousness of humanity, that it becomes extremely difficult for them to recognize a great man or woman, remarkable man, remarkable woman, people who have the sense of responsibility, people who sacrifice their lives for all of humanity. We've become, as a humanity, in so many ways, prejudiced and full of our very important opinions and our self-interest and so forth, that we become numb to the beauty of these great human beings. Even when we read the words of these great ones, we approach their language with such an intellectual point of view that their words don't come into our heart. So I wanted to, talk a little bit as a preface to this morning's talk, so that you will listen to the words of Nicholas Rourke through your heart. Think about the Rourkes as a family, since today is Mother's Day. You know, they lived exceptional lives, extraordinary lives. They followed the direction of the great ones, of hierarchy, the hierarchy of light, which in itself is exceptional. Even more exceptional in today's world, because few of us follow anything but ourselves. And I know I'm being a little bit harsh here, but I am speaking factually. Now, anyway, I could speak more and more about this, but I won't, because I already have a very long talk to share this morning. So let me begin. Talking about the new era, things that are likely to happen before the new era. Well, the teaching reminds us that we may have a set date for the new era, and it may come and go, because the new era is not going to begin until the consciousness of humanity is receptive and has a transformative consciousness that will allow the new era to come into our lives and to live the principles and values of what the new era is supposed to give to us and to exemplify. So when we talk about new era, don't think about, June 1st, 2018 or 2030 or whenever, that's the day the new era is going to begin. It's going to begin when enough human beings, men and women, decide to follow the light, the love, the power, and the inspiration of hierarchy, and they can set their past aside. They can diminish gradiently their powerful egos and opinions and prejudices and vanities and so forth, to set them aside and to realize the most important element of life is the oneness. And that's what the great ones, like the Rourkes, that came into incarnation, gave us the Agni Yoga teachings, as well as others, presented to us so that the new era could be born in our heart and in humanity. So now, how are we going to recognize when the new era is upon us? The teachings explain to us that there is a cyclic pattern of degeneration that sets into such a degree that it involves physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual realms. In other words, all spheres of life. As we move into the new era, we are going to see a pattern processing into a widespread degeneration in the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual realms. But this is not all that is happening. We can also see a new generation of thinkers, a new generation of creative people and leaders who are emerging everywhere in the world, not just one country, see, but everywhere. The body of the planet right now is reacting, we believe, to these currents of degeneration alongside the currents of these beautiful, fiery spirits who are standing on the creative, constructive, and regenerative path, ready to take our consciousness into the new era. These fiery spirits, young and old alike, are the new wave of souls who are making contact with their higher self, with the higher thoughts of great beings, and who are standing on what we call the regenerative path. What is regenerative? Well, you really have to go into history. And I would recommend a book that Torgrim Saradarian wrote called Shambhala. I believe that's what he called it, Shambhala. And in that book, he talks about the White Island. He talks about when hierarchy came into incarnation, when these great beings came into the planet and established the purpose of life. They didn't establish it, they expressed the purpose of life through various ways, through various schools they set up. They taught the purpose of life. They taught about what the real self is, the true self. These great beings did remarkable things, and this is what we are trying to regenerate. So, there are people, I believe, who are now, they are waking up and they are finding themselves and putting the rest of us on this regenerative path. Those of us that have a refinement of senses that are ready to move on to this regenerative path and bring what those great ones brought to us. But we're bringing it forth into another century. So these fiery spirits include those who are building soul relationships and those whose consciousness functions within the frequency of what we call the spiritual triad, the holy triad. To function in this holy triad takes a refined consciousness, refined senses. Humanity is now standing like Arjuna, the warrior who was depicted in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna was standing between two armies. The army that was destroying respect. Listen to these words. This army, this would be part of humanity now. This army that's trying to destroy respect. Destroy the respect of these great ones. These great ones that come to the planet, that bring light. See, this one army is trying to destroy respect, destroy truth, destroy this sense of responsibility, destroy cooperation and unity and striving and beauty. The other army is the army that's now standing for regeneration. On the onset of every new era, this is the natural phenomenon. The crisis is like a test. Those who cannot pass through it, they are going to be thrown out, stuck in the past. And those who pass through it will be facing new glorious opportunities for development and new achievements. The crisis now involves every person of every age. Some people are going to make it. Some people are going to be stuck and degenerate. We see these things happening now. The situation being as it is, those who are on the path of striving are going to be increasingly alert not to be involved with this massive flood of degeneration. See, they're not going to fall into the masses, that river of the masses that can't think. They are going to be the ones who are building their arcs to protect beauty, their own beauty, the beauty of the planet, the beauty of life. And these people, these ones that are waking up and moving on to this path of regeneration are going to be the pioneers of the new era. Just as there are laws by which our country is controlled and kept in order, so also there are spiritual laws which, if violated, are going to bring unhappiness and destruction to the world. Now, there are 7 laws we are given, which most of us know in one form or another. If these laws are somehow violated, this violation is going to result in unhappiness, sickness, crime, death, poverty, and misery. And when I say death, it's obvious I'm not talking about physical death, because we all are going to die. We've died in the past, we're going to die in the future, and we're going to die in this life at some point. So I'm not talking about death in that way. I'm talking about the death of the spirit, the death of the soul. If we violate these 7 laws, they're going to resent violations. Such violations bring unhappiness, sickness, crime, poverty, death, and misery. So, our question today, and as we're watching the YouTube video later on, our question is, are we following these 7 laws? Are we really putting them into practice, or are we just jamming these the words of these laws into our intellectual bank and moving on? Are we really stopping and absorbing the significant, or let's say the essence of these laws, and that these 7 laws are now becoming the essence of our lives, the essence of the way we are living our life, or going to live our life. So I'm going to start with the words of Nicholas Rourke. The first law is the law of the beautiful. In the practice of this law, Nicholas Rourke wrote, "In Bombay, I was once asked, what was the difference between the East and West? And I answered, so profound, it just blew me away. So simple and so profound. He said, the best roses of East and West have the same fragrance." Is that not remarkable? They have the same fragrance. He said, so while we are speaking about opposition and differences, essentially we have the great one. Because really, all law is one. And under this law, everything is one. We have only to serve this one. And if we are unable to do so, we may say mea culpa, for we are guilty of having failed to follow the law. He said, very often we are trying to discover how to build the next life, how to build the evolution to come. Well, he said, that is our duty, and you will all very soon wish to build up your own lives. And certainly you will wish to build up a happy life. What is the best medium to reach this happiness? He said, fortunately, after visiting more than 25 countries, I can tell you from my own experience only through the beautiful. We are divided in so many experiences, and yet everywhere is this same feeling of the beautiful. You note, he said, that I am underlining the beautiful, not beauty. Because I am speaking not only about art or about some expression of art and music and drama and song, but I'm speaking about the sense of the beautiful. And it is our duty to introduce in our lives this general sense of this great conception. Perhaps someone could ask me, well, it is very good to have such a dream, to make life somehow beautiful. We often think that this is beautiful, or that this beautiful, we often think that this, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so, I must have left a word out. We often think that this kind of beautiful is only for those who are rich. And he who must work, how can he dream about the beautiful? And certainly we all have need of this dream about the beautiful. He said, you see how important it is to create your own essential energy. You will hear about scientific energy, occult energy, Agni energy. These are all symbols for the same thing, creative energy, the law of the beautiful. In Asia, they speak about Agni Yoga, the teaching of fire. Is it something supernatural? No, they are explaining how to use this element of fire, the flame of space, this all-embracing element. And you will be told that very soon the era of flame is approaching our land. Let us try to understand this law of the beautiful by creating the most essential energy in ourselves, in our family, in our group, and in the new era. Isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. The ugliness that is going on in the world, this is unquote now, I'm moving on. The ugliness that is going on in the world today is very powerful. Ugliness is expressing itself in the phenomena of crime, violence, murder, unfaithfulness, hatred, exploitation. We could take every single one of these terms and write a paper or speak for a day or a weekend of a seminar of what's happening today. Unfaithfulness. It's a very interesting word. And then think of how these horrible events and elements are being distributed through movies, through TV, computer games, Netflix. Not always, and not, everything, but the majority of what we are being exposed to. The news, not fake news, just the news in general, even art in general. What's happening is that the law of the beautiful is now being portrayed as the ugly. The law of the ugly. Ugly music, ugly language, ugly friendships, the lack of faith, and so forth. Now, on the other hand, we have in the world masters of beauty. We want to recognize these masters of beauty and align ourselves with them. Masters of beauty who try to reveal their own divinity, their own essence, through their art and painting and music and dance and writings and just the essence of who they are. They try to awaken the sense of beauty in people and inspire them to think and feel and act in the spirit of beauty. They think that beauty not only gives people spiritual satisfaction, but also releases the inner potentials of humanity, organizes their minds, and inspires them to live a life of beauty. For example, the granddaughter of one of our members is a photographer. Her family has created an environment that gives her many opportunities to photograph nature's beauty. She is young, in her early 20s. Imagine what kind of life of beauty she is going to bring into her life, the life of her family, the life of her future children. For her attention to the beauty in nature will help her live in such beauty and help her to discern what it is and what it is not. The youth are exposed both to ugliness and beauty. If they choose the path of beauty, if they choose to make their lives beautiful, if they choose to live in a beautiful environment, try to make the lives of others beautiful, they are going to be the leaders of the new era. Recently, a co-worker shared the teachings in her church, teachings about the heart. One of the church's younger members said, "This is something I feel I must learn about, the nature of the heart." Imagine the possibilities of this young person who wants to learn the nature of the heart. Imagine her traveling the path of the heart as she enters into her more adult years. She will be guided by her solar angel. She is awakening. See, this is the law of the beautiful. The next law is the law of harmlessness. This is a law that our pharmaceutical companies should follow. Recently, I posted a fact on my Facebook page about the damage vaccinations are causing our domestic pets. over-vaccinating and the overdosing of pet vaccines has become a global issue. 5-pound dogs are receiving the same dose of the rabies vaccine as the 150-pound Great Danes. And vets are now witnessing terrible side effects. Vets are now reporting these harmful actions to the government, but they are being ignored. So now we have naturopathic veterinary medicine. Thank you, Louis. Naturopathic veterinary medicine, and their schedule, their patients, their clients' schedule is so full they can't take new patients. They're leaving the old Western medicine for naturopathic medicine because their pets are not healthy on all these vaccines and drugs and so forth. There are serious heart medications being given to patients, medications that include side effects that can cause death. But the doctors are still giving these meds to their patients with the warning, just be sure to follow the instructions. If you read the Agni Yoga teachings, you can learn ways to protect your heart, your blood pressure, and your life, giving you ways to live a nice, long life. Helena Rourke wrote about heart medications, and she said this: the majority of heart remedies, with the exception of strophanthus, leave harmful sediments, and if used for a long time may poison the organism. Teaching the law of harmlessness to the new generation means to bring a new era that has a minimum of pain and suffering. The age of happiness, so we can understand the new era with these words. It's going to be the age of happiness and health and success and joy and unity. The next is the law of purity. This is not so easily understood. So let us take, for example, pure thinking. Pure thinking is thinking that is not controlled by one's vanity and egotism, not controlled by separatism, prejudice, or illusion. There is no self-deception in pure thinking. Pure thinking is not polluted by negative emotions. Negative emotions such as fear and anger and hatred and glamours and so on. Purity is a state in which our human soul is in full control of his personality and runs that personality in harmony with the plan and purpose of life. The next is the law of unity. This law is one of the basic foundations upon which all manifestations of life must be built if we want to be happy and healthy and prosperous. In honoring that today is Mother's Day, let us think about this law of unity. In the section titled Scriptures of Asia, from the book Himavad by Nicholas Rourke, we are told this, and I quote, "With the trumpet declare with joy, guide our souls in unity toward salvation." And in this section he titled Gerber the Teacher, he writes, "O Mother of the Peace." Going on, he says, "From the most ancient days, women have worn a wreath upon their heads. With their wreath, they are said to have pronounced the most sacred incantations. Is it not the wreath of unity? And this blessed unity, is it not the highest responsibility and beautiful mission of womanhood? From women, one may hear that we must seek disarmament, not in warships and guns, but in our spirits. And from where can the young generation hear its first caress of unification? Only from the mother. To both east and west, the image of the great mother, womanhood, is the bridge of ultimate unification. Unquote. Every time we think contrary to the law of unity, we weaken our life. Every time we feel separative and selfish, we petrify our hearts, separative and selfish. Every time we act selfishly, every time we engage, we as an individual, a group, a humanity, engage in separative activities, we petrify our heart. That's huge. Every time we engage in separative, destructive actions, we sow seeds of disease in our body, groups, and country, because we cut our contact from the cosmic heart. When we cut ourselves from the cosmic heart, we expose ourselves to viruses and to germs and to psychic attack. About women in unity, Master M wrote, "The manifestation of the Mother of the world will create the unity of women." And I'm going to repeat that statement. The manifestation, think about this, the manifestation of the Mother of the world will create the unity of women. You watch, there is one specific woman in this country that is challenging women to think with uniformity, unanimity. She is being inspired, in my opinion, which is a good opinion. She is being inspired by the Mother of the world. She is fusing with the ray of the Mother of the world. Master M says the task now is to create a spiritually sovereign position for the woman. Are women going to allow this to happen? And the transmission to women of direct communication with the highest forces is necessary as a psychological impetus. Of course, through the new religion will come the necessary respect. And that's from Leaves of Moria's Garden, Volume 2. Our children have a chance to follow those who daily sow the poisonous seeds of separatism, or to follow those who think and feel and act in the spirit of unity. They must realize that unity means what? Unity means order. Unity means order. It means harmony. It means beauty and health and joy. And the opposite of that is disunity, which means chaos and suffering and degeneration. The more we live in an awareness of unity, the closer we go toward the purpose of our life. Okay, let's see how far we can go here. The farther we travel away from the awareness of unity, the closer we identify ourselves with the process of disintegration, with the process of pain and suffering. And let me put fear into there as well. And the reason I want to bring fear as an oppositional force to unity, because that's what fear does. It destroys our faith in the Most High. it destroys our faith in hierarchy, our faith in the great ones. So let's add fear into this formula. And the formula being, the further we travel away from the awareness of unity, the closer we identify ourselves with the process of disintegration, pain, fear, and suffering. The awareness of unity increases the birth of our consciousness in creativity and success on all planes of existence. Isolation freezes our consciousness. Now think about what isolation means. Think about it, write a paper on it. Isolation. It freezes our consciousness, and as a result, we become involved in various crimes on all planes of our personality existence. A great opportunity was given to us at the beginning of this century when the energy of Shambhala was released into the consciousness of humanity. One of the gates of Shambhala is called the isolated unity. This release of energy created an unprecedented cleavage between those who have the sense of the principle of unity and those who stay in the consciousness of isolation or separatism. For example, a few days ago, a person was talking, actually it was more than a few days, about a year ago, a person was talking about the several terrorist tragedies that occurred in London in 2017, saying that terrorism would never have occurred if they had kept all the immigrants from coming into their country. Oh my God, that's so stupid. Many people feel the same way about immigrants coming into the United States. And of course, the same opinions occur in other countries as well. There is an atrocious situation, and I've talked about this before, but it's so atrocious I really can't get into it because it's outrageously painful to know about. But nonetheless, I want to share this. Nonetheless. So there is an atrocious situation taking place in this country, in Texas, with a place called the Dilley Detention Center, and you can find this on the web. They separate mothers and children. No toys are allowed. It's very hard to even work as a legal entity, as a volunteer, as a social worker, as an attorney. It is very hard to even work with detainees. You have to go through a huge security clearance and training. And I know this because I know somebody that is doing this. They always find ways of not letting the lawyers in. This detention center became infamous a year or so ago when a judge said that 5-year-olds could speak and represent themselves. 5-year-olds could speak and represent themselves without having a lawyer or a parent present. The good news is that there are still many advocacy groups that are doing incredible work in this field. The law of responsibility. In studying about this law, I learned that this is one of the highest laws of the universe, in the universe. It means to fully understand that we can make people either happy or miserable by our thoughts, words, and actions. When we have the sense of responsibility, we live in a way that we not only prevent misery for others, but we also increase their joy, happiness, and success and become their protector without violating their freedoms. Parents need to teach this law to their children. friends need to find ways to remind each other about this law called the law of responsibility. At this time, those who stand for the law of responsibility try to live a responsible life, but also to inspire responsibility in others. When they do this, they are changing the consciousness of humanity and bringing them into the new era. The law of striving. All my life, I have been blessed to have people around me who kindle this flame of striving in me, to strive toward improvement, who encourage me to reach new heights and to become better at what I was doing. They gave me opportunities to discover what talents I had, and when discovered, provided me with ways to further develop those talents and to encourage me to be better. But there are people who discourage every kind of discipline and planned striving for improvement. There are. It is a challenge for those who are smart enough to turn their backs on such people and despite it all will forge ahead through the betterment of their lives. When a vision is not given to the youth cannot strive. And wherever there is no striving, there will be decay. A woman, a grandmother, realized that her estranged grandson, who was in high school, had an outstanding talent in art. He loved art and would oftentimes post his drawings on his Facebook page. The grandmother tried to communicate with him via Facebook and in a very short time gave him a vision for his future. She told him he had a special talent that should be cultivated and offered him an opportunity for that to happen. But his mother found out and forced him to block his grandmother from any further communication. Imagine that. The last the grandmother heard about the boy was that he had fallen into depression and was smoking marijuana. Wherever there is no striving, there is decay. And let me close with this law, and I'm missing a couple of others, but we don't have time for them anyway. The law of love. There are people who teach the true meaning of love in sex, in marriage, in family, even in aspiration and devotion and dedication to higher visions. They tell us that love is not only the satisfaction of sexual needs, but also the understanding of responsibility. Love even acts as sacrifice, such as in maintaining a long-time solid and firm friendship. There are people who demonstrate their love in helping you reach your vision, in protecting you from dangers, in helping us to build a successful future, in cooperating with us in our plans. These people bring discoveries and ideas by which all of humanity will step into the true age of brotherhood. So in closing, the world presents to us two paths. A path that eventually will lead humanity to degeneration and disease, and a path that will lead humanity to ever glorious summits of love. To be continued some other time. We'll get laws 6 and 7 in there somehow.